Hi class, what you have in front of you is a review of the transformations that we did in Module 9. That's the translations, reflections, and rotations. This handout is going to help you with preparing for your test that's coming up, and also to help you with not having to remember all of these different rules and what they mean. So let's get right into it. Right after this, you'll be working on a practice test that, again, is going to help you with preparing for the test. Okay, so the first one is a translation, and the rule is we start with x comma y. Remember, it always starts with x comma y, and then it's going to transform into x plus something, right? We're going to say a, and then y plus b. It could also be minus, so a or b could be a negative. In that case, it would move in the opposite direction. So the x plus a is going to tell us where it's going left or right, and then the y plus b is going to tell us where it's going up or down. So as a little bit of practice here, you could write down something like if we had x minus 1 comma y plus 2, this means left 1 and up 2. Okay, reflection is the second one. And we have two different types of reflections. There's definitely a lot more, but we're only going to focus on doing over the x-axis or the y-axis. And so there's a mistake here on that last column. Should say reflect over the y-axis. Make sure you add in y-axis or add in the y there for that. So when we when we reflect over the x-axis, that means the y changes. And reflect over the x-axis means that the x changes, the x coordinate or the x variable. So that means that if the y changes, we got x comma negative y. And reflecting over the y-axis, that means it becomes negative x negative x comma y. So if we're going to do something like reflect, if we're just going to do actually we don't need to do any examples because it has a description for both of those, and it also has the rule attached to it, and it's not going to be any different. It's a matter of just knowing what it looks like. And then the last one is a rotation, which I believe is one of the toughest ones to visualize. So make sure you make use of the whiteboards and also the transparencies. You will be able to use that during the test. So if we start off with x comma y, then we're doing 90 degrees clockwise or 270 degrees counterclockwise, remember, is the same thing. So 90 degrees clockwise would, remember that the x and the y are going to switch in this case. We got to figure out which one is a negative or which one changes, right? So if it's clockwise, it's going to end up being the x. And then 180 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise, doesn't really matter. 180 degrees is going to result in negative x comma negative y. And 270 degrees clockwise or 90 degrees counterclockwise. So the 90 degrees clockwise and the 90 degrees counterclockwise, they're related to each other. It's just going a different direction. So we're switching the x and the y, except this time the y changes. So it's negative y comma x. And 360 degrees, if we start with x comma y, it still is x comma y. Okay. So if I want to do, if I have something like 7 comma negative 2, this is just an example, and let's say I want to rotate 90 degrees clockwise. Just put CW, clockwise. So that's this one right here, 90 degrees clockwise. which is y comma negative x. So if that's x and that's y, the sorry, we're going to switch them at the end, but you see that x becomes negative x. So we change the x and then we switch them. So the x here is 7. Let's change it. What do we get when we change it? Negative 7. And then we switch them, the x and the y. So it becomes negative 2 and negative 7. And that would be my image after I rotate it 90 degrees clockwise. Okay. So erase this here. So with all of these rules, okay, there's a lot to remember. So I'm not gonna force you to memorize these. Know how they work. You will be able to have access to these during your test. On the right side, if you would like to, you can think up of some examples of what a translation is on the first one, what a reflection looks like on the second one, and what a rotation looks like on the last one. And that way it could help you, again, for your test. Okay, so have this handy while you are working on the practice test. And thank you. Have a good day.